The MoneroTopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
All right. Good morning. Good morning. What is the...
Something happened that literally when you were announcing that I was coming up, my power went off. So I'm running this stream through my phone. So if it if it lags, yeah, that's
you want us to jump to news, and we'll come back to you while you fix your situation.
No. We can do this. I mean,
okay.
You can see me clearly, right? Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah.
We can do it.
I wouldn't have expected anything otherwise. It looks totally fine.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. I was just worried that you weren't gonna be able to see me correctly, or I wouldn't be able to sound fine. But all right, let's do it.
Perfecto, I would say. I'd say I really got to learn the Spanish, man. I really got to learn the Spanish, and I'd be so much more productive down in Mexico if I could actually learn some Spanish. Aarón, man, give us an intro.
Well, my name is Aarón Díaz. Yeah, my name is Aarón Díaz. I do not know if I'm in the top of the crypto YouTubers in Latin America. I do have some I consider my followers are in the big numbers. I have in total I have 3 YouTube channels. I have over 200 subscribers, 200K subscribers. Wow. So I am an economist. I usually analyze financial news, crypto news, and geopolitical news. And I will be giving a presentation on this Saturday 16th, on how the fiat system works and how it is a scam. So if we're gonna have the media there, it's gonna be in Spanish, and I'm gonna try to explain some issues that a lot of people, even Bitcoiners or crypto owners, usually get wrong when it comes to money. People do not understand how money works. Usually people think money it equals to wealth, and it does not. So I'm going to be talking about that and try to get people excited about economy. And yeah, that's pretty much going to be my presentation.
I don't know. Maybe I got to move you to Thursday. I mean, the media, they're welcome to stay the entire conference, but they're all showing up Thursday evening, Thursday afternoon when we kick off the conference. We're having a little press conference, and then as I was telling Tux, we're then going to start with essentially a Monero 101. Mm-hmm. But maybe we move you up to the front too. So if the media is there, we could, kind of give them that base knowledge of, what the problem with money is with fiat is in the first place, right?
Yeah, sure. I can do it on Thursday.
So your talk is, that's what your talk's going to be on, kind of like what the issues are with fiat in the first place and why crypto matters. Is that?
Yeah, pretty much. I will try to explain how the wealth is actually created and how because people think that money is wealth. So people think that the more money they get, the wealthier they are becoming. And that's true if you look at it from the individual point of view. But when it comes to the masses, the more money or fiat people carry, the poorer they're becoming. So it's one of those things that are hard to explain and hard to understand. But once you understand that, you start to understand why the whole world is becoming poorer and poorer and poorer, even though prices in real when you compare prices against a real hard money, our hard currency, you realize that prices haven't increased at all in probably the last 10, 15, 20 years. It's just that our money, it's becoming worthless. And that's what I'm trying to go for, especially because here in Mexico, the new president, she has new reforms that it's going to increase the amount of money in circulation. And a lot of people are excited for that, but they don't understand that that's going to make Mexico poorer instead of wealthier. So that's pretty much the whole background of my presentation.
Yeah, that's one of the most important ideas that we need to get out there, right? People need to first realize, what the scam is with fiat, right?
Yeah.
Crypto is the solution, but they have to first understand that there is a problem. Most people don't realize it. They're using they think their dollars are working as intended, right? Perhaps they see things going up in dollar value, and so they are experiencing inflation, but I don't think most of society realizes how much of a hidden tax it is.
No, and especially people don't realize that the left or the right, it doesn't matter, Democrats or Republicans, they are all, even though they do things differently, they always go to the same ending, which is increasing a transfer for wealth from the poorest people to the wealthiest. So it doesn't matter if it's a socialist or if it's a neoliberal, they always do exactly the same thing, which is create inflation. And inflation is a tax on the poor. While they try to convince us that deflation it's bad for the economy, it's bad for the people. And they usually go and try to do as many tricks and tell economists, pay economists to tell lies. But in reality, deflation is a tax against the rich. And that's what I'm going to try to explain. So people understand how money works and how crypto can achieve its goal to actually tax the rich, tax the upper class, and opt out of the left or right political system.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Inflation is more of a tax on the poor than the rich, I would say, right?
And inflation is a tax on the poor, and deflation is a tax on the rich.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
So that's why they usually tell lies about it and try to convince us that we shouldn't have any deflation because that's going to make us poorer. But no, that's quite the opposite. And the moment that you realize that, and the moment that you realize that it doesn't matter if it's the left or the right, they all look for inflation. You will understand why it doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. It doesn't matter if it's here in Mexico, if it's Morena or if it's PAN. They always end up in the same situation where people are losing wealth and are becoming poorer.
Yeah, it always, they're out there talking about things, saying what they're going to do, but at the end of the day, we see the technocratic state grow in terms of its power, and we see the banking cartels grow in terms of their power. It always seems to work out that way, right? I mean, we are seeing some interesting things though with Milei in Argentina. What's your take on him? I mean, do you think he's legit? Is he, at the end of the day, will things really change there, or are they going to still be stuck in their fiat system?
Well, he is a libertarian. He's an Austro-libertarian. I do agree with his economic policies. I don't agree with his political views on the world, but his economic policies are on track. And he actually gave a speech, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, where he announced that Argentina has reached the point where recession has bottomed. And from now on, the economy is starting to recover up. I think Milei is going to fix Argentina because and Argentina is one of the best examples of what I was saying. The left and the right were exactly the same. They made Argentina one of the poorest countries in the world, even though Argentina was one of the richest countries in the world just 100 years ago. And that's because the policies, even though Macri was supposed to be neoconservative, he did exactly the same as his predecessors, which was print money or getting debt, which in terms of economic policies is pretty much the same as printing money. And Milei hasn't done that. Milei has stopped spending money, government's money. He has finally reached a point where inflation has slowed down to one-digit numbers. That didn't happen for over 4 years, and I do believe in Milei. Milei is gonna be successful in his mission to bring back normality and common sense to Argentina. So I'm excited actually to see his final results. I think they're gonna be great, and hopefully Donald Trump is gonna, because I know that I don't think they're friends, but they know each other. And Milei has spoken up about Donald Trump, and he looks him up. So I hope that Donald Trump can get some ideas of Milei, some ideas that work, and bring some common sense to the United States. Because the things I see in the United States is they are following the same track that Argentina was following, which is now the same track that Mexico is following. So maybe we will need Milei here in Mexico too. If they continue to follow the same path, they are going to break the economy the same way that Argentina did, the same way that Macri did, the same way that Alberto Fernandez did. They are going to break Mexico the same, and we're going to have the same results. So yeah, I like Milei.
Yeah, me too. Overall, obviously, yeah, very very disruptive guy, and he is implementing a lot of the things he spoke about. Shortwave tips, 25 cents. 1 ounce of gold in Rome buys you used to buy you a fancy dinner, suit, and shoes. 1 ounce of gold today buys fancy dinner, suit, and shoes. Yeah, exactly. What do you think about that? Going back to the gold standard, do you think that's feasible?
No, I don't think. I mean, if the world wanted to, if the government wanted to, they will do it. But going back to the gold standard will create a huge recession across the border, across the world, and especially the politicians. They don't like being unpopular, and just because they don't like being unpopular, they will not bring back the gold standard. Just because it's easier to inflate an economy and lie to the citizens, pretend like the economy is actually growing when it's actually not. If you look at the statistics and you take a look at the list of the countries around the world, you will see that pretty much none of the countries have grown probably in 20 or 30 years. When you subtract inflation out of the GDP supposed growth, you will see that in most cases, the world has turned into a recession, and we have been in a recession for probably decades now. And that's why they wouldn't bring the gold standard, because if they do, they will bring back reality, and they don't want people to think that it was their fault. So no, I don't think the world it's coming back to the gold standard. I think the world is going to be forced into the Bitcoin standard, but not the gold standard.
All right, we have fairly reasonable investors saying silver standard is more feasible. Remember that the dollar was originally defined in terms of grains of silver. Same concept though. Same concept.
Yeah, and actually silver has a higher inflation. So if you look at the rates of inflation in the United States, the Fed made it to 2% per year, because that was supposed to be the same rate of inflation that gold carries. And if you look at terms in Mexico, the Bank of Mexico made it to 3%, because that's supposed to be the inflation that silver carries. And if you take a look at the actual ratio and the Forex exchanges, the Mexico peso has been declining against the US dollar. Just because the inflation is higher, that means that we are becoming poorer and poorer and poorer, because our currency is betraying us. So no, I don't think silver will make it better for the world. If you ask me, I think gold will make it better, or could make it better. But at this point, I don't think any government has the balls to actually go through a huge recession like that. That's why I admire Milei, because he actually had the balls. He didn't care if people will think of him wrong or will think of him bad. He didn't care about his image. He did what he had to do, and that requires a lot of balls. Going through a huge recession to make Argentina recover, that's bravery. And politicians are a bunch of cowards.
100%, 100%. Neil's tipped $1.23. When you have a currency where someone can arbitrarily print more of that currency, it can only end one way. Eventually, that currency gets totally devalued. Good thing that Monero is resistant to that. Yeah, 100%. That is the invention, right? Digital scarcity. Bitcoin was the first. Monero also obviously has digital scarcity. What do you think? Just kind of back to the gold standard thing. So obviously, yeah, you don't think governments ever will do it, right? Because
not voluntarily. They might,
right,
by force, but not voluntarily. Yeah.
Would because I get this sense with Bitcoin, or like a lot of the Bitcoin people, right? They're Austrian economists, right? They believe in those ideals, but I feel like they wouldn't want to see things go back to a gold standard. Ironically enough.
You see, if I would like to go back to the gold standard,
I'm just saying, like Bitcoiners in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
The kind of the philosophy there is, they're Austrian economists, right? They would in theory would want a gold standard, but would they really? Because I feel like many of the Bitcoiners have become number go up enthusiasts, right? And so in a world where, let's say, the U.S. was moving back to the gold standard, it probably wouldn't be good for Bitcoin. It would be bad. It would now be competing with Bitcoin, right, for its primary use case, because it would be solving the problem in another way.
Well, no, I don't think that will happen. I don't think Bitcoin will lose any of its usefulness, because Bitcoin solves more problems than gold solves. Gold doesn't have an easy way to ship it around, to carry it around. Bitcoin does that. Bitcoin solves that. And gold has a higher inflation than Bitcoin. And because of that, Bitcoin will always increase against gold. So no, I wouldn't necessarily think that Austrians wouldn't like to go back to the gold standard. Maybe we're used to the fiat standard because we have grown our whole lives in fiat, and our way of thinking already accommodates to fiat, to numbers going up, even though prices are going up as well. And that's where Bitcoin fixes that. Bitcoin gives you purchasing power that gold doesn't give you. I mean, someone was saying that I think in Rome, you can dine with 1 ounce of gold for dinner and clothes. And here he said you can buy fancy dinner, suit, shoes, and you can do that as well right now. Yeah, what gold is really good for, it's a really, really good stable coin. In terms of purchasing power, you can buy pretty much the same with gold with the 1 ounce of gold right now that you could buy in 1950. Gold doesn't increase its purchasing power. Pretty much it's stable, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I mean, if you want to get rich and make sure, if you become rich using crypto, you could stabilize and make sure that wealth gets frozen through time by using gold, which is a good thing. But if you want to keep increasing, or have a chance of keep increasing your chances of becoming wealthier, then you need to understand Bitcoin, because Bitcoin does that. Bitcoin actually resolves that issue. Oh, give me a second, because I have a miner here and it's going to pick up. Yeah, it's going to sound really loud. Give me a second. I'm so sorry about that. I'm back.
No worries, no worries.
Yeah, the power came out. The power came back, and the miners kicked off.
Nice. It's a Bitcoin miner.
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic.
You can tell because it sounds like a jet engine.
Yes, it's from the guys FutureBeat.
Okay. Yeah, no, I don't think Austrians would be against moving back to a gold standard. I think Bitcoiners that claim to be Austrians, I think would, because at the end of the day, I think they'd be more compelled by number go up. And yes, I get this argument that Bitcoin would still have utility. But it would take a lot away from its primary use case, which is fighting inflation. If the US dollar moved back to a gold standard tomorrow, there would be much less of a need and argument for Bitcoin. People could just hold dollars. Yeah, is it gonna,
Yeah, you're right about that. I think it
yeah.
will increase. It will slow down adoption across the border. Because people wouldn't have the necessity. I mean, you will take one utility of Bitcoin out of the table, which is to protect citizens out of the robbery that governments are causing by creating inflation. You are right about that, but I still think that Bitcoin, just because it has a inflation that is lower than gold, will keep increasing in prices. And in Mexico, back in 2018. Obrador was the president here, and he didn't print money on the same level that other countries did. So the peso was very stable against the US dollar, and that caused that inflation didn't go up until 2020, when all printers in all of the countries just went rampant, and I could see that people didn't increase, or adoption didn't increase in Mexico because the stability that was here. And I can see that what you're saying is people wouldn't use Bitcoin because of that. And you're right. I don't think people will use Bitcoin as a way to escape from inflation. But I still think that Bitcoin will win over time, just because Bitcoin is more scarce than gold is.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's what I'm taking you, though, right? I'm taking you down the Monero road, because this is how a Monero person thinks, right? So if Bitcoin's primary use case is kind of store of value and being digitally scarce, does it also serve the use case of being untraceable digital cash? And kind of, what is your take on that, right? So in Monero, I would say most people here that use Monero, that believe in Monero, are excited about it, because we feel like it's solved that problem better than Bitcoin, that it functions better as digital cash than Bitcoin does. And I think ultimately a lot of people in Monero see that as the true value proposition of crypto, not so much the digital scarcity, while it is digitally scarce, but more so the fact that it's not only sound money, but it's sound money that you can transact peer-to-peer without any government or corporation being able to censor or surveil transactions in any way. We'd love to get your take on that.
Well, I think that as we were talking, people adopted Bitcoin because number went up. That's definitely the first reason. Greed, it's the first thing that moved people into Bitcoin. And 100%. Because Bitcoin is the best coin out there for storage of value, Bitcoin has the first advantage on other coins. There are other coins, you're right, like Monero, that can carry and can storage of value. Litecoin is another one. There are plenty of them. But Bitcoin, its main utility is to keep the value going up, or to keep it at least not going down. And that's its main utility. That's why in places like in Argentina, where inflation just went off the grid with 300 inflation per year, Bitcoin was adopted quickly as one alternative to escape that inflation. Now, how can we see that same scenario for Monero? Because of Monero, its main utility is to have private money, which means that governments cannot track it. For Monero to be adopted in the same scenario as Bitcoin has been adopted, Bitcoin we will have to escape not from inflation. Monero will not be adopted because people want to escape from inflation, but because people want to escape from an authoritarian regime. Maybe if Kamala Harris has won the election and
unrealized capital gains, right?
Yeah.
Me Gold actually just got to this right here. There are plans to tax unrealized gains. Monero is a safe haven. Government does not know how much you have, so they can't rob you. I mean, yeah, that's definitely a potential catalyst if that were to happen. Obviously, like you said, if Kamala was elected, that could be a very real scenario. Not so much under Trump, unless he really fools us. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying there. Go ahead. Continue your thought.
So it's not only unrealized taxes. It's just freedom of speech. There's a war on freedom of speech. There's a war against freedom in general. Globalists, they want to control people, and so they will try to control your wealth, what you think, what you say, how you express yourself, and Monero shines in that scenario. It definitely solves the whole problem, arithmetic problem that Bitcoin cannot solve, because Bitcoin doesn't solve the issue on being private. Monero does. So for Monero to be adopted, we'll have to go through hell as a society. That's what there's adoption. Definitely there's adoption right now, and we haven't seen a very hard authoritarian regime. We were on that path. But even though we are not, there's adoption for Monero. But if you want to see the adoption that Bitcoin has been having, we'll have to go through a lot of pain, because people will definitely run to a safe haven like Monero in that scenario.
We are at 128 live viewers, guys. Like, reshare, retweet. Let's get a bunch more people in here. Aaron, maybe give us a retweet to your 200,000 subscribers or whatever you got going over there. Amazing that you have that following.
Thank you.
You must be doing something right, and it's good to know that people like you have that following. To teach, getting the word out beyond a small group, right? Very good to know that you have that many followers. Akuno is great. Tip 50 cents. I think Milei was selected to repay IMF loans through austerity, disguised in libertarian rhetoric. He shipped off Argentina's gold and hangs out with lizards. There will be food riots in a few years and cries for change. If I am correct about that. That's a good theory. I mean, it's interesting. My kind of negative theory, or whatever, black pill theory with regards to Milei is that he kind of was brought in to eliminate the natural black markets that were rising up, right? And so by making things more libertarian, implementing those policies, you had less of a need for the black markets, and now you're pulling people back into the state system, right? Because most of the commerce that was taking place in Argentina was happening with cash, with US dollars.
Yes.
Right? People were buying homes, property, they're going to the cuevas, they're transferring, all of it black market, outside of the system, not easy to tax, not being taxed. You want to get people out of that system back into the main system. What's the way to do it is you reduce the need for them to be in that system and pull them back into the state system. That's kind of my worry with the Milei thing.
I agree with you. I mean, it's just a theory, and we can theorize about anything. I mean, Milei can be a Martian, and we don't know. We will never know. Although I think he has, at least we can recognize that he had the balls to be against the state and So far, his policies looks like they are working. Inflation is going down. He said that the recession is over. We'll see when numbers are being reported to see if he was telling the truth or not. I don't like the fact that he gave his gold to London, because we know that once you give your gold to London, it's really hard to get it back. We can talk about the thing that happened with Venezuela when they asked for their money back and London just refused. Even though I don't like Maduro, that was the goal of Venezuela, and I don't think England has any right to say who's the leader and who's not of any country. And Argentina, I don't like that specifically. I don't think that Milei did something correct there. I know that he did it because he wanted to get some interest on the gold, and right now, since Argentina doesn't have any US dollars, it's really hard for him to pay off the debts that they have with the IMF and the bonds. And well, I don't know if it's going to work out. I don't know if he is a Trojan horse. Hopefully not. Hopefully he is actually the real package and he can fix Argentina, because if he does fixes Argentina with Austrian economics policies, then more countries will follow suit, and that's just hopeful, because we don't know what the future is going to bring to us, but hopefully that's the path that we can follow to bring back sanity to the world.
It would be beautiful to see, right? That is the dream. Kunu's great saying, Milei uses excellent branding and advertising, much like the flim flam salesman that was selected this week, and another excellent salesman. I don't trust any of them. Referring to Trump, I guess. I think a lot of people that tune in here, we don't have too much faith in politicians. That's why we focus on things like Monero and Bitcoin, right? The crypto anarchists, the cypherpunk philosophy, rather than hoping that politicians come and save us. We're building tools outside of their system that we could all opt into and start to use and solve the problems ourselves by just basically ignoring them.
Well, Bitcoin is going to enforce, even if governments like it or not, even if politicians like it or not, or even if people like it or not, Bitcoin will enforce austral or anarchy capitalism. I don't know how you call it in English, but anarcho-capitalism or austro-libertarism. It's the same thing. It will enforce, cryptocurrencies will enforce another economic model into the world. And it doesn't matter what people think about that, because it's happening right now. Just because governments will have to adapt to the new laws, economic laws that have been implemented with the creation of Bitcoin.
Libertad sent a very generous tip of $10 worth of Monero. I would be interested to hear Aaron's opinion on what the recent presidential elections in both Mexico and the U.S. mean for the future relations between the two countries. I'm concerned that the politicians can degrade some of the good relations we have now. Yeah, what do you think with Trump and what's the new president of Mexico? What's her name? Yeah,
Claudia.
What do you think? Yeah.
Well, Trump
the tariffs, the talk of tariffs, and obviously the immigration issues. Yeah, love to get your take on that.
Well, the thing is with tariffs, there's two paths to solve the tariffs. I mean, definitely someone will pay higher prices. Someone will become poorer if he puts the tariffs. He put the tariffs. There are two ways to neutralize them, but there are going to be consequences. The first path is for the U.S. People, for Americans, to pay higher prices for goods and services that are brought in from Mexico, which is a lot. Mexico is the first it's the first commercial partner that the United States has right now. Most of the things that you guys consume come from Mexico. That means that you will have a higher inflation when tariffs kicked in. And that's gonna, and you might think, companies are gonna bring back the jobs here, and and then at least we're gonna have the jobs. That's correct, but the only thing wrong on that train of thought is that because salaries or wages are higher over there, you will pay in dollars for that. You are right now paying in pesos, which is a currency that is going lower against the US dollar. Now, if you bring back the jobs to the States and produce the same things that we are producing, then you're going to have pay higher. Now, there's a way to neutralize the tariffs, and it's to depreciate the Mexican peso at the same rate as the tariffs come. So if the tariffs come at 25%, then the Mexican peso might decrease to 25%. That way, Mexico will absorb the tariffs, making it poorer, and the United States wouldn't feel the tariffs because they will pay exactly the same. So those are the two scenarios that I can see. I do not know which one they're going to take. I think they're going to take the second one, where Mexico becomes poorer, just because the whole economic model in Mexico in place right now is to become the producer. So the United States has been having a very comfortable status quo. You guys have the US dollar, which is the reserve currency of the world, and that has given you amounts of wealth that no other country has, because you can just print money and buy everything of the world. That sends inflation of the United States and send it to another country. And so your economic model, it's to become a consumer. You consume. In Mexico, its economic model is to be a producer. Mexico produces what the United States consumes. That way, there's a circle that makes both economies gear up. And what I have seen is that they are combining. We are getting permanently stick to each other, because that has worked very well as to remain or to keep the US dollar as a strong currency, while in Mexico the economy has been moving. So if we keep that in mind, what's going to happen when the tariffs come in? Because Mexico, its model is not to be a consumer, but to be a producer. Most likely, prices will adapt to the tariffs, so the Mexican currency will drop 25% against the US dollar. That means that right now it's at 20%. 20 pesos per dollar. It will probably drop to 25 pesos per dollar, and we will neutralize the tariffs. But on the other hand, people in Mexico will be poorer. Your microphone. It's mute.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I guess we'll see how that all plays out. And so, I mean, you're pretty certain that the dollar will probably be going up against the peso, no matter how things play out, right? And yeah, so kind of back to that thought, right? So obviously in places like Argentina or Venezuela or whatever, where inflation is very bad, very noticeable, arguments for things like cryptocurrency are very easy to make, because they're looking to use anything but their current currency. In places like the U.S. and Mexico, it's not as easy to make those arguments, because while inflation doesn't exist, it's not as in your face, not as obvious, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you think about crypto adoption then overall in Mexico? Obviously, we're interested in trying to get locals to start using Monero in Mexico. But it really isn't the ideal location to try to start planting seeds of crypto, right? Some place like Argentina is more ideal, right? But how do you see that in terms of adoption in Mexico of crypto? Do you think maybe it could be a breeding ground and we're just not looking at the right way? Or what's your overall take on crypto adoption in Mexico? Can we get people to start using it there organically out of a need?
I think you need to educate people on the benefits on crypto, but the only thing that I see as a resistance, natural resistance, is because we don't have let me rephrase that. People don't have a real or a sense of urgency to move into crypto because they don't understand what crypto is. To them, when inflation goes up, it's not because the government is printing money. It's because the companies are being greedy, and that changes their focus on who to blame. But if Mexico starts seeing inflation, as I suspect is going to happen, then people will be forced to opt out of the system. The system will make them leave it because people will probably get angry that their money is being debased, and then they will see and get educated on crypto. I think Mexico hasn't adopted crypto or Bitcoin or whichever coin you want because in general, people haven't had a need. The peso was very stable during the administration of AMLO or Obrador. Was very stable. It was actually going up against the U.S. dollar, and that in just that sense made people not want to leave the Mexican peso for any other currency because they were seeing the peso was straining up against the U.S. dollar. But now I think the things are going to change. Just because the Trump is there, Trump will definitely shake things up. And the current president, she is promising a lot of social benefits, a lot of welfare, and that will increase the monetary base in Mexico. That will increase inflation. And with Trump over there, you have the formula to depreciate the Mexican peso. I think we will see the Mexican peso going against the US dollar to $25, maybe 30. And when that happens, people will want to leave Mexican pesos for another currency. Most likely, just because the US dollar is the reserve currency, a lot of people will jump into the US dollars. But then you will have the opportunity to educate people on crypto, and then they will want to listen. So right now, they don't have a reason that they think it's valid to listening as to why you should jump into crypto, but greed. If you show them that crypto is going up, the Bitcoin is breaking to 77K, then they will want to make some money, and then they will start educating themselves from Bitcoin, and then you'll have a Bitcoiner or a cryptocurrency enthusiast. But if they don't have that need, even if it's not greed, if they are not greedy, they will not jump into Bitcoin unless they have to.
Exactly. That's how I see it too. Which I think it's important that we're trying to get the word out now, because, like you said, inevitably we're going to see, the peso probably, devalue, like you said, and the current trend, obviously, in the U.S. as well, right, where things get more extreme, more Argentinian, like until either major policy changes are made, which are not likely, or the other option is people start using something like crypto and just opt out and put pressure on the system that way. All right, Aaron, man, thank you so much. Very much looking forward to meeting you in person down in Mexico. You're going to be a great participant in the conference, a great speaker. You're definitely going to fit in among us Monero people, and glad to have a local speaker that can get the word out in Spanish. Any other? Yeah, man. Any other thoughts? Any other things about the conference itself? Obviously, we're going to have you be a part of the Spanish component, trying to get the word out locally. Any thoughts there, or about the conference?
Well, about the conference, I'm going to be there. You tell me if you can change the schedules, or if you want to change the schedule. But otherwise, I'll be out there on Saturday. So if you want to talk to me, if you have questions, I'm open to always answer them. I'll be staying over there, having a good time. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be very educational. You should go. You should bring friends. I'm going to share the conference in my channel, so people can come in and also learn why to use cryptocurrencies, why to use Monero. I like Monero. I'm a fan of Monero. I think it has a great utility, especially in a world where authoritarians are trying to take over. I think we need something like Monero to always escape and opt out of the authoritarian regimes. But I appreciate the invitation, and I thank you all for listening. And thank you, Douglas, also for your time and the space here.
Yeah, of course, man, and thank you. And yeah, anything you could do to get the word out would be greatly appreciated, especially given your following and who your people are, which I hope a lot of locals maybe even too might be following you down there in Mexico. Please do make it clear to them that it's essentially free for locals to enter into the Huerta Roma. They can come participate in the marketplace for free. They can participate in the workshops for free, especially the Monero 101 workshop. They could go to the Monero 101 table for free. That's outside of the dome area where we'll be onboarding people to Monero, giving them, whatever, 50 pesos worth of Monero. So please get the word out in that respect. If they want to actually come into the dome and get swag and get like the full conference experience, we're asking them to buy a local ticket, which is still like 500 pesos, whatever. Yeah, $25. So still very cheap, very reasonable. But even if money's the issue, they can come and learn for free as long as they're actually interested in the topics. We just won't have room in the dome, but they'll be able to still be a part of the conference and come learn about Monero for sure.
You can count on that. I will share the word, and I will invite my followers to come by.
Awesome, man. Very much looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great success this year. We have a lot of energy, a lot of people involved. It feels like it's growing. So greatly appreciate it. Nice meeting you, Aaron. Thanks for taking the time today to join us, and I'll see you next week, man.
Thank you, guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.
All right.